my kudos to Taisha and what she's done for me. And so today will be no different. First of all, thank you for joining us in the chat, Taisha. I know you wanted to join us live, but some things came up, so that's good. That's fine. Just glad to have you in the chat. But as I always say, and as I always will say, thank you for everything that you've done and that you continue to do. Thank you for your support and your encouragement and for all the information and the help that you have given me on this platform. And so, again, thank you. And secondly, as I always do, again, I always say thank you to my wonderful wife, who is highly supportive of me, who is the backbone of whatever I do. And so I'd like to say thank you to my wife, Salima Cartwright. Appreciate you for being you and all of that. And so today, I see someone has joined us in the chat. Fidey. I see that you joined at 10:22 a.m. I don't know if I'm thinking that maybe you're in another country. Let me know if you're still on here and where you joining us from. We're here in the U.S., Georgia, just outside of Atlanta. Is where this is emanating from. This podcast. But anybody else, say hello, say hi, and join in on the conversation. We do this. We try to do this every Wednesday. Those that day, well, the day will stay the same, but the frequency will change, and I'll go ahead and talk about that really quick. First of all, we're going to be out the next 2 weeks. We're going on a trip, a vacation, my wife and I. So we're going away for a couple of weeks. So we will be back on August the 10th. And so we'll probably do the 10th and maybe the 17th. And then we will go every other week because I have some other stuff going on related to what I'm doing here, but some other stuff going on. So I need to kind of scale back with this, but we will not stop this at all. It'll just move to every other week after the 10th or the 17th of August, depending on the calendar. So yeah, so we will do that. So it is good things going on all around us, and appreciate everybody for joining us. Hey, Sharon, I know you're out in Arizona, so good. I know you guys are crazy hot out there, but it's always hot out there. So we're humid here. We're about, I don't know, 80 something, 90 degrees. The sun is coming back out, but we're pretty humid here, but not quite like it is in Arizona. So good. So today's topic, I wanted to discuss Christianity 110. Wow. Christianity, a tool of white supremacy. That's today's topic. Sharon says it's 110 in Arizona where she is. Wow. Oh, that's crazy. But hopefully you're staying a little cool, staying in the shade or staying inside, especially in the middle of the day there. So just take care of yourself. Beige Price, thank you for joining. Hi, I just have a microwave meal, make tea, and I'll be right back. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Beige. Appreciate it so much. Hopefully you can continue to listen. But anyway, so today's topic is Christianity, a tool of white supremacy. And what we wanted to discuss today was how, and first of all, is Christianity an actual tool of white supremacy? And if it is, how is it being used? Why is it being used? And how come we're not able to? What's the reason that we're not able to see this? When I say us, I mean the collective community, And so, and if anyone is on the call on the podcast in the comment section, and they don't believe that Christianity is a tool of white supremacy, then by all means, please speak up. I would love to hear the side. Sharon say, inside menopause and heat aren't friends. All right, Sharon. So anyway, but before we get deep into the subject matter today, I wanted to discuss a couple of things. I want to add this as a sort of a kind of a add-on to when we do these podcasts on Wednesdays. I want to call it things that I've seen throughout the week on social media that I just wanted to kind of discuss or get some comments on. So I have a couple of things that I saw today or this past week of social media that I want to discuss. And it's all kind of related to what we're talking about today, or at a minimum, it's related to religion and our overall topic on this podcast. So first of all, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but TD Jakes, and you know, I've never been a hater of TD Jakes. Even now that I'm no longer a Christian, um, I'm not a hater of Reverend Jakes. However, I saw a video that I think has gone viral. I don't know if he did this over the last week or the last couple of weeks, but in the video, it's part of a sermon that he's going, and I'm going to try to paraphrase the part that I heard and the part I think that's important. But in the sermon, he talked about, and I'm assuming he was talking to us, the African American community, because that's the abundance of his audience, that's the majority of his audience. And he talked about how independent women, I guess being independent Black women, because of their independence, they're breaking up the family. They're responsible for breaking up the family. And I think also, this is paraphrasing, it's not word for word. You can go look up the video, take a look at it. But he also says that a man should not be poured into, a woman should not be poured into a man. And basically, a man is the head, and that he should not be led by a woman. And because of Adam allowing Eve to do what she did, that's why we're in the position that we're in. And so he goes on. He also says some stuff that I, can agree with, or at least understand where he's coming from the standpoint of of in some cases, Black women with the whole "I don't need a man" thing, but that's kind of beside the point. But I just want to be fair, because he did mention that it's a problem when Black women, not all, but some Black women, um, say that they don't need a man, and that we as Black men don't feel like we're needed in the family, that kind of stuff. So I added that because I wanted to be fair, because I know there's going to be some people that come on and say, well, you didn't say about the other part where he said this and that. But what I want to focus on is just the overall tenor of what he's saying, which is basically a patriot, misogynistic, chauvinistic viewpoint of women basically need to stay in a certain place, and that men should be the head, and it should go should that it should go like that. Uh, Obviously, as I've said, I think that the general tenor of his comments are sexist, misogynistic, and it comes from the Bible. It comes from his interpretation and many others' interpretation of the Bible. Um, my wife and I, we've been married 16 years, and we, my wife is strong in certain areas, and I'm strong in other areas, and we complement each other. There is no I'm head of the house and she's subservient to me. There is none of that. We both have our strengths and we both have our weaknesses. Um, she, because of who she is, um, a lot of times I will, kind of lead in certain areas and say, okay, this is what's going to happen. But if she thinks that I'm leading wrong or that I'm making a mistake, she by all means will speak up and say, no, I don't think that's the way it should be done, or here's the reason why I don't think it should be done. And me, because my wife is extremely intelligent, very smart lady, um, and I value her as a person of wisdom, as a person of intelligence. I listen to her, and if it makes sense for both of us, that's how we operate. And so I just think that we have to be careful with allowing a 2,000, 3,000-year-old book to dictate how we act today. And remember, a lot of this is all of this, for the matter of fact, is coming from the standpoint of men 3,000 years ago, and even today, because a lot of us still act the same way, who believed that it was their God-given right to be in dominance over women, and that women were the lesser gender, was less intelligent, less whatever it was, they were to be subservient to men. And I think it's just past time for us to get beyond that, and appreciate all of us as human beings, and understand that women and men both have stuff to contribute to a relationship. And no one person in a relationship should be, okay, it's my way or else. It makes no sense to me. It is archaic, it is backwards, it is regressive, and it is asinine. So that's just, so I just thought that was interesting. Uh, and as Jake's commented, preached a sermon, it was a lot of applause. And if you know anything about church, and especially his followers, it probably was vast majority women applauding it. So it is what it is, but that's kind of my opinion on that. Sharon's marriage, teamwork, ebb and flow. Absolutely, absolutely, totally agree. I wouldn't be married for 16 years if I did, if it wasn't. So yeah. And so the second thing I wanted, this is a little bit closer to what we're talking about today. I think, or I can tie it in. I've been having a social media, a Facebook conversation with this guy who is, I don't know if he's a preacher or not, but every last one of his comments that he posts on, every last comment on Facebook is about God and Jesus. And when I say every single one, and he does it multiple times a day, every single one. Usually I just skate past it, don't say anything. But recently he started a conversation about the reason why, and he literally said this or implied this, but he basically said it. The reason why we have shootings in school is because we took prayer out of schools. So I just could not let that. I just could not, because that, and we're talking about Christianity, a tool of white supremacy. To me, that is a slave type of mentality and way of thinking. So I had to correct him. I said, brother, I'll have to challenge you on this. I said, why do you say what you said? So we go back and forth, and I let him know. I said, listen, I said, first of all, prayer was never taken out of school. What was taken out, or what was stopped, rightfully so, is organized prayer being led by teachers or administrators of the school, because we all don't believe the same way, right? And so I said, secondly, individuals are free to pray anytime they want to, whether it be a silent prayer, whether they go to the restroom, or they pray at their desk or at their office or whatever. And teachers, administrators, students still pray in school every single day. And then I said, so how can you take an all-powerful God who is everywhere? How can you take him out of something, right? And I say, your comments are ridiculous to say that we have school shootings because of we've taken prayer out of school. I said, well, we've had church shootings, and everybody in a church pray. So that don't make any sense to me. We've had shootings inside a church where everybody is praying and where God is supposed to be. And so that has nothing to do with it. And it also pointed out to him that you go back 40, 50, 60, even 100 years ago, where the vast majority, 90+% of this country believed in prayer, believed in God. And we had praying and believed in God in all of the schools. As a matter of fact, no matter where you went, it was there. We had segregation, we had lynchings, we had Jim Crow, we had slavery. So having God, quote unquote, and having prayer, quote unquote, did nothing to stop all of that, all of those things. And then finally, he came around and he said, well, what is it? And this is the point I really want to get to. He said, what is it? Uh, he said, how can we expect to live our life if we don't have God in our life? And then he said something that really got up under my skin, because I've heard this before. He said, well, there is no purpose to life if you don't have God. And at that point, I just had to, figuratively read him the riot act, typing. I said, I feel sorry for people like you who believe that they don't have a purpose for living if they don't serve and bow down to a deity. I said, when I get up every day, I have a purpose to live in. It's my mission, my family, the things I love to do, traveling, seeing the world, making myself a better person, trying to make the world a better person for other people. So I just don't understand this whole concept, but that's a sheeple slavery type of mentality, to believe that your only purpose for living is to worship, bow down, be subservient to this invisible deity that you've been indoctrinated to believe in. And I thought it was just a sad commentary that this individual, and not only him, but there are many, I've heard plenty of other people who said the same thing. Like, there is no purpose to living if you don't believe in God, if God doesn't exist. It is insanely asinine to have this type of mentality. And so anybody have any comments about that? But I just thought I just had to kind of bring that to the podcast, because there are a lot of us out there, and that kind of takes us into our topic today. And let me say hey to some of the people that's out. Beige Price is back. Tasha said, great point. I have no desire to be romantic. We have a beautiful culture and traditional ways to love. Absolutely. Let's see. Beige say hello, Talisha. Taisha and Sharon. Bernard X, how you doing? Good to have you, Bernard. You said that's ridiculous. Referring to, I guess, some of the comments I talked about, I guess, Jake's or the other person I have the conversation with. Appreciate that. Sharon said hi to Beige. Let's see, as we got everybody say hi to one another. Fantastic, because this is a family, so say hello to everybody that's on. Glad to have everybody here. So then let's get into our topic of today: Christianity, a tool of white supremacy. This is I thought about this, and I it's we oftentimes hear those of us who have left the faith or non-African Americans who may be part of faith, and I've heard this from non-African Americans, white people, whatever, who will ask the question seriously as to how can African Americans be Christians given the history of Christianity and what was done to our ancestors. And I've heard that question before. And so today I wanted to kind of get into is it a tool of white supremacy? Is Christianity a tool of white supremacy? But we have to go all the way back, kind of to the beginning, and understand that whether Christianity itself uh, is an actual tool, I think it's easy and clear, and it's not debatable. Christianity has allowed itself to be used as a tool of white supremacy. We do know that for a fact. And so I, from my understanding and from what I've my experiences, um, the origins of of Christianity being used for white supremacy stems from one of two places. The first being the so-called curse, the curse of Ham, which actually was not the curse of Ham, and we'll get into that in just a second. And Black people, African Americans, embracing embracing being cursed as descendants of Ham, right? And then so the second, for me, the second way that this is being done is Christianity being used as a tool of white supremacy. Is actually self-inflicted. Those of you who are familiar with uh, the Hebrew Israelites, one of my favorite groups to debate with. Uh, they believe that we're, the lost tribes of the one of the 12 lost tribes of Judah or whatever. And because we've somehow turned our back on God, we are cursed as a collective group of people. Now that's self-imposed. Why would you go around saying that you are cursed by this invisible deity and live your life based on being cursed? So those are the two, and it may be more, but those to me, from my understanding, my reading, my research, and my talking to people, those are the two foundational pieces of how we got to Christianity being used as a tool of white supremacy. So the first one, the curse of Ham. So let's kind of understand this story, because I guarantee you most Black people have a misinterpretation or misunderstanding of this story that's in the Bible. So the way the story goes is Noah, who, as you know, after the flood, it's Noah and his seven other members of his family. They're the only survivors. They're the only people, even though they're severely flawed in every way. These are the only people that God decided to let live because through the flood, the great flood, the Noah's Ark, and all of that. So Noah is drunk because he was a drunk before. So he's in a drunken state, and a couple of his sons see him naked, and they try to cover him up. And then Ham, who in the story, there are multiple stories, but Ham, I think, is a son, also sees him naked. For some reason, that is a violation of severe proportions. If you ever notice, the Bible has this thing about sex. It's always something dealing with sex or degrading women. I mean, that's just like a major topic in the Bible. It's something related to sex, whether it be homosexuality, whether it be prostitution, whether it be genital mutilation, or degrading women. It's always something related to sex. But anyway, so Ham supposedly sees Noah naked. Noah gets upset. And Noah, and this is important, Noah curses not Ham, but he curses Canaan, Ham's son, right? And so you go down, and so Black people believe that we are descendants of Ham through Canaan. And so therefore they believe, a lot of us believe that we're cursed because of this. So obviously you guys are listening, you guys are critical thinkers, and you guys know that there is a ton of problems with this. So let's begin to address what the problems are. First of all, Canaan was cursed. If you believe the Bible, I mean, let's start over. First of all, you have to believe that this story is true. That is the very first thing. Historically, the Great Flood never happened. Historically, most historians and scientists and archaeologists believe that Noah is a mythological character, that he is not a real character. So right off the top, none of this really happened. But let's just go on with the story. Let's kind of indulge the believers out there who still believe in this story. So Noah did not curse Ham, he cursed Canaan, and Canaan only, right? Out of that curse of Canaan, we somehow got that the curse is having black skin. Now, this is how we get to Christianity, a tool of white supremacy. So Europeans, white people latched on to that whole the skin is the black skin is cursed. How do they get that? Because we're the first people on the face of this planet. So if anything is cursed, it's anything that came after us. We are the original people. We are the first. Everyone else are copies. We are the original people on this planet. So to say that black skin is cursed is asinine. It's totally ridiculous, right? But anyway, so that's what we get out of that. We get that the black skin is cursed. And so that allowed not that they needed an excuse, but that allowed the oppressors to oppress us. And from a religious standpoint, a biblical standpoint, they justified it by saying that we were already cursed and that we were somehow beneath them. We were somehow less than. I mean, that's the historical context of it all. I mean, there are finer points as we get into lynching and segregation and Jim Crow and all of that. But that's like the basis of it, right? And us as mindless African Americans kind of fall into that, believing that we're somehow cursed because of this, right? So the first problem is that Noah never existed. The second problem is that we were not cursed as descendants. It was only Canaan, right? Third problem is that we've allowed the oppressor to use that, or at least we allowed them to use that in the past as an excuse as to why we should be oppressed. And fourthly, most importantly, is that we bought into it as a collective people. I've heard people time and time again, black people believing that they are cursed. I mean, how do you're born, your child is born, you're born, and you're told or you tell your child that you're cursed, and the only reason why you're cursed is because your skin is black. I mean, that's the fetus. I mean, that's self-sabotage, self-sabotage. And so it is crazy to me that we believe that. But we go on with that story and we believe it, and it becomes a crutch. It becomes an excuse as to why collectively a lot of us are not doing better. We say that this is our lot in life because we're somehow divinely in this spot, in this place, because God ordained us to be where we are because of our being cursed. Simply because a guy's father saw his father naked. Think about that now. You believe as African Americans that 3,000 years later, you are part of a curse for what somebody did 3,000 years earlier that was nothing but seeing someone naked. That's literally what we are. And there are a lot of people, don't be swayed, that there are a lot of African Americans that believe that. And so the oppressor, European white people grabbed a hold of that and said, okay, this is the biblical, the religious justification we're going to give for as to why we're going to enslave this people. I mean, that's the mental. I mean, technically it worked out differently. I mean, that's not the reason technically why we end up being enslaved for the most part. But that became the justification for it. When you look these people in the face and say, well, you are a Christian, you believe in God, how can you justify enslaving another person? Well, if they can make you less than a person, then they can justify enslaving you. And so saying that we are cursed is a way to make us less than they are, make us beneath them, and therefore subservient to them. And so this is how this started. Also, if those of you who are familiar with the Mormon faith, Mormons also use this excuse as to why they would not ordain black people up until I think the 1970s, right? Because they believe. I mean, there's a cartoon that they used to. I don't know if they still do it now, but I know they used to play it for their members and a lot of the younger people, even their members that actually talked about black people being cursed, our skin, the curse being us being black or brown skin or whatever. That's the curse that God cursed us, and that's why we're not fit to be in their church or be ordained. That is fact. That is in their teachings, or was in their teachings. You can go look up a video, and it tells you about it. So those are the first. I mean, that's one of the first foundations. The second one I talked about um, was the 12 tribes of Judah, and how we are the original Jews, and because we turn our back on God, we're somehow cursed. And I'll get into that in a second. Let me say hey to some more people. Greetings, Brother William, Sister Lena Page, and Taisha just said hey to everybody. Wasn't an Israelite group started by a white person? I'm not sure, Beige. I'll have to do some research on that. If anybody know the answer to that, please enlighten us. Let's see. Goddess of Earth Shop. Hello, how you doing, Goddess of Earth Shop? Glad to have you from Houston. All right, in Houston. Um, Beige said hello to you. Bernard X is from Tennessee. Um, the justification for Exodus 21. Yeah, we're going to get into Exodus 21. You said Sharon Epps said I'm in Clan land, and they have the audacity to be Mormon. Really? You have Mormons in Arizona? Okay. Good deal. So let's go to Exodus 21. So Exodus 21, for those of you who may not be familiar or maybe have forgotten, that's the book Exodus, and that part of the Bible, the scriptures, the chapters that talk about slavery. And I looked up a bunch of scriptures that related to slavery in the Bible, but Exodus 21 is one of the more popular ones, the most well-known one, because it actually details out slavery. And so I love this because you will get apologists, whether it be black or white apologists, that would try to apologize or try to make excuses for slavery, or they will say that it's being misinterpreted or is taken out of context. If you read Exodus 21 all the way down, it explicitly tells people how to have Hebrew slaves and then have Gentile slaves or non-Hebrew slaves. It tells you about if you beat the slave or harm the slave and the slave doesn't die within the first 3 days, then there is no punishment for you. It tells you about how to trick your slave, even tricking a Hebrew slave into being a slave and staying a slave for life. If you give that slave, if it's a male, and you give that slave a wife and they have kids, he can go free, but the wife and the child has to stay behind. So that would make him stay, right? So there is, and then there's people say, well, this is uh, uh, servitude. That's not true. This is slavery. But regardless, here's the thing: regardless of whether you call it indentured servitude or you say it wasn't as bad or it's not the same thing as slavery that we've had here in the United States, owning another human being has never ever been acceptable. It may have been acceptable in certain in certain um, groups of people from their standpoint, but it is not more. It has never been morally acceptable. Owning another human being is not right, regardless of when it happened, under what context, and whoever it was that you were owning or who was doing the owning. It is absolutely not right. And if an all-powerful, all-knowing God, he should have known, it should have known that the scriptures relating to slavery were going to be used to enslave people. Whatever, should have done a better job of specifically saying slavery, the owning of other people, is forbidden. It is absolutely immoral and wrong and should never be done under any circumstances. As a matter of fact, slavery, owning of other people, in my opinion, should have been one of the Ten Commandments, right? Because it is that ridiculous that we have to. And so it is amazing. I listen to other other podcasts similar to mine. That's a guy I listen to all the time, and he gets into it with people about slavery. And I think it shouldn't have been surprising to me, but I sometimes find it surprising that he will have a white person on the show that will specifically, I mean, who would have a incredibly hard time saying that slavery in the Bible was wrong. I mean, they would turn backflips, they would do mental gymnastics to try to justify it. And it's like, I don't get it. Just, it's easier to say it's wrong. I don't understand why I was in it. I mean, I don't understand why I was in the Bible. I don't understand why God didn't, specifically say whatever, but I don't agree with it. It was immoral. It's one of those things about the Bible I don't understand. That doesn't stop you from still being a Christian. All right. But so those of you who get opportunity, read Exodus 21 on it. Sharon said, absolutely. I was surprised, but most of the people in my area are transplants from Oregon, Idaho, and the Dakotas and Wyoming. Okay, that's why you have Mormons in Arizona. Let's see. Unclaimed people by all three of his faiths. Unclaimed people by all three of his faiths. Yep. Oh, enslaved people by all three of his faiths. Yeah, and as we know, as we understand the history of the enslavement of our ancestors in Africa, Christians were not the first of the Abrahamic believers, the Abrahamic God believers to enslave our people. Muslims were actually first. Muslims were actually the first group to come into Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, and enslave our people. And then the Christians from Europe, Portuguese and Spain and London and England, all those other places came in. But we were first enslaved by Muslims. Right. So those, and I have friends who are Muslim, who are Islam, and they always kind of forget that. I mean, first of all, they always end up being like pro-black. Yeah, this is why I chose Muslim, because it teaches me to be strong in my faith and blah, 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 blah. And then when they point out the fact that, Muslims enslaved our ancestors first. Then it's like crickets, right? But yeah. So now going back to the Hebrew Israelites and this whole lost tribes of Judah, and we're the original Jews and all of that. Let's just squash that right there. And I've made this argument. It doesn't change anything if you change everything in the Bible to be blackface. If you blackfaced everything in the Bible, it doesn't change the fact that it's still mythology. If you look genetically, and I've said this in other podcasts, and I've said this online and in other debates with people, the vast majority of African Americans who are in this country today that descended from Africa are from West and Central Africa. The original Israelites, Judah and Canaan and that area is northeast Africa. Africa has 54 countries. God knows how many separate individual, and I don't like to use the word tribes, but smaller groups. To say that, and remember, there were many spiritual practices. To believe that you are a descendant of the original Jews. Now, the original Jews could have been people of color. I mean, in that part of the region, I don't have an argument. I mean, I don't have an issue with that. But to say that you as African Americans who came to this country through the transatlantic slave trade are descendants of the original Jews, you would have to show me genetic proof. And that has never ever been done. There is zero genetic proof of African Americans in this country being descendants of Jewish people. It's zero. And so that would be like, it would be worse than me saying, because I live in Toronto, Canada, and these people came from Mexico City, Mexico, that we have the same ancestry, right? It'd be worse than that, because that part of Northeast Africa is the West Coast and Central Africa are so far apart, not only in just sheer mileage distance, but in belief systems, in spiritual practices, in norms and customs, and the people completely different. So I guess these Hebrew Israelites just decided that, okay, because we believe that the original Jews were people of color, then that must mean that we are descendants of that. And I could be wrong. I have never seen any evidence that shows that African Americans in this country are descendants of the original Jews. So that's the first thing. Secondly, so now you say that we're cursed because we turn, at least they say that we're cursed because we've turned our back on God. That is BS. From the standpoint of African Americans have, even today, we've always been about 90% or more belief in God as a collective group. We are the most religious and the most believingest group in God on the face of this planet. That is fact. There is no denying that. Even now, with people breaking away from Christianity and other religions, African Americans are still at about a 90% clip. So when have we turned our back on this so-called God because we're supposed to be his children? And secondly, how does a parent punish his or her so-called favorite child, but everyone else gets to skate? So if we've turned our backs on God, what has other groups done? Because we have not engaged in the kind of atrocities that other groups around the world have engaged in. When I say we, I'm talking we as descendants of Africa or African Americans. Or if we have engaged in some atrocities, but there have been countries and nationalities that have engaged in worse atrocities than what we have historically, right? And so why have they not been punished? Because obviously they've turned their back on God as well, right? So why are not they punished? I mean, this stuff gets to be so ridiculous, and it infuriates me because people are not, or don't have the ability, or don't want to think for themselves. All this stuff can be thought through if you just sit down, take off the glasses of indoctrination, and just think for a minute. Does this stuff really make sense? Right? And I'll be happy to have anybody that come on here who um, disagree with what I said or challenge what I said. But what the bottom line is that we have allowed, um, we have been, uh, we have contributed to allowing white people, the oppressors, to oppress us and to use Christianity as one of the tools. So now, fast forward to where we are today. So Christianity tells us that we are worthless. And those of you come from the same kind of church that I came from, that you're worthless, that you're born into sin, and that you're nothing without Jesus. Subconsciously, what that does to us, it tells us that we are worthless, that we are subservient, and that we need to have someone else who don't look like us oversee us or take care of us. If you extrapolate that out to real world today, it is the reason why some of us have a problem with working for a black manager or a black supervisor, because we've been so conditioned to have someone that physically resembles our God or the God that we serve over us. It is the reason why we don't have a problem with needing the government or other entities outside of our community to supply our needs. It is the reason why we feel inferior, and therefore we have what's modern day slavery, right? That the other side, they're able to keep us subservient because we're always in need, and we don't uh, feel like that we're equal to other people. And these people take advantage of that. And so we come away with saying stuff like, well, this is not our earthly home, and heaven is going to be better, and when I die, things are going to be better, or this is, we've turned our back on God, and these kind of things. We put this kind of stuff in our kids' brains, and so our kids grow up with an inferiority complex. This is where it starts. It starts in the church. young child, first of all, this child is seeing everything that's good and wonderful is white. They see white angels, they see white Jesus, they see a white God, and so they have this inferiority complex. And then you tell them that you're cursed, and the curse is that your skin is black. So then this kid is even more so inferior. And they're growing up, and then the police officers are white, and their teachers are white, and their managers are white, and their supervisors are white. And so now there are adults who have an inferiority complex, and they are basically mental slaves to the system. They're mental slaves to other people. And so the larger majority community in this country are able to take advantage of us collectively and keep us in a form of slavery and bondage. And in those of us who participate and still go to church and believe in Christianity, we hear the stuff, we see it. Maybe it's not as overt as it has always been. But what we've set up in this country is there is a certain way to be, and that is based on European standards, right? And so we push for those standards in our own life, and when we don't meet those standards, that's somehow connected to us being less godly, right? If we don't if we don't have the standard family, a man and a wife and a child, if we're gay or whatever, we're somehow less godly. If we decide that we don't want to be married or we don't want to have kids, we're somehow less godly. If we have kids outside of wedlock, somehow that's less godly. And so everything is about this whole European standard, which enslaves us from a mental standpoint, and we live in a world, we spend our whole life feeling inferior to someone else. But like I said before, it all begins in the church, and then there's these scriptures that's read and that's subconsciously implanted in us in our brains to make us feel inferior. Now, I understand that a lot of us have gotten beyond that to a certain point, but it's still ingrained in us. Even the movies and the social media and television are the things that we see. Um, it tells us that. I mean, the evangelicals who's supposed to be this group of God fearing people, um, they they understand that religion is a weapon. They understand that they can tell black people that this is Christianity. And this is how you're supposed to act and conduct yourself if you call yourself a Christian. And we fall right in line with that. And then we ostracize those of us who decide to step outside of that line and say, wait a minute, that's not how I want to live. I'm an individual. That's not my original culture, right? That's not who my ancestors were. So I'm going to do this. And so we have black Christians who identify, by the way, as Christians first. I mean, I cannot remember her name. It might be Candace Owens, but it's another lady out there who says that she's black. She's an African American woman. She says that she identifies as Christian first and is black second. And I have a huge problem with that because in the eyes of a racist, in the eyes of a person who is pro white supremacy, whether you're a Christian, a Muslim, or Hindu, or atheist, or agnostic, whatever you are, the first thing that they see, and the only thing that they see, is that your skin is black and you're black. So for us, so we make it easy for them to continue the oppression of our people by going along with their beliefs and their systems, because they pull out the Christian card on us. And we say, oh yeah, I'm a Christian, I'm a Christian, I'm a Christian. So I have to act a certain way, I have to operate a certain way. So to answer the question from the top, yes, Christianity has been used and is still being used as a tool of white supremacy. Also, from a more practical standpoint, Christianity has robbed our community of resources, right? And so by doing that, it keeps us in poverty. And poverty is slavery. Debt is slavery. So we're in poverty, we're in debt, we're enslaved as a collective community. So Christianity robs us of our resources. The largest amount of African American collective wealth today is given every Sunday in our churches, and that money is taken and put into white-owned banks that we're not, as individuals, that we have a very difficult time accessing the resources or the revenue, the money from those banks to do the things that we need to do in our community, like build schools, like start businesses, like improve our community, right? So again, Christianity robs us of our resources. And so by being robbed of resources, the collective community is impoverished. And when you're impoverished, that's a form of slavery, because you can't do anything for yourself. So you have to go to someone else for something. And in return, they put you in a position of being subservient, less than. And so we have to take a look at this whole Christianity thing and enslavement and it being used. And I just want so many of my people to kind of wake up and look at this thing again. Taisha says, devils lynched black people in church clothes. They absolutely, Taisha. They lynched people. They lynched black people in church clothes. They lynched black people doing church services. They lynched ministers. They lynched preachers, black ministers. It did not matter. They don't care. Again, it is, and so this is another, and I want people to kind of connect the dots. That's why another reason why we do this show. My hope is that people connect the dots. If the descendants of people that brought you this religion, keep in mind now, and I know I'm going to have people who are going to watch this video and say, well, Christianity wasn't started in Europe. And I've said this before. Christianity was started in Judah, right? I'm sorry, in Judea, which is northeast Africa, but Judea at the time was controlled by the Romans. Christianity hit two northern African countries, just two, Ethiopia and I think Egypt or whatever. And I might be wrong about Egypt, but I know Ethiopia was one. And then it took root in Rome, right? And so what was repackaged, it got to us, was certainly influenced by Europeans, being the Romans. So Christianity is not indigenous to Sub-Saharan Africa. It's not indigenous to our people. It is not one of our original spiritual practices by any stretch of the imagination. So please get over that, right? And so I don't know, we always have to go, because I know we have people that's going to come on and say, well, no, that's not that you need to reach history, understand what's going on. Let's see. She said, bomb black churches. Exactly. That's a point that I forgot. They bombed black churches. So what does that tell you? Thank you, Taisha. That's why I love having Taisha on. She hits it. She gets it. But they bombed. I'm from. I don't know why, Taisha. I need to be slapped because I am from Birmingham. That's my hometown. I grew up in Birmingham. So I should have been the first person to remember that they bombed black churches, because the four little girls, the whole bombing of the church. I think it was 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham. So it did not matter. It doesn't matter. So again, the point that I was getting at is that so anytime you're going to have a religion that has been repackaged and given to you, watch how those who package the religion and send it to you, watch how they react. Ask yourself, historically, have Europeans acted in a way that they are fearful of going to hell? Have they historically acted in a way to make you believe that this hell really exists, right? Because if this religion was true, if this religion was real, then every European who understands heaven and hell would be acting differently, because they would be fearful of going to hell. But historically, based on their actions and the atrocities that they participated in caused, they're not at all collectively. I'm not saying all of them. I'm saying collectively as nations. And even what we've done, what they've done, what people have done as individuals, those people, their actions don't lead me to believe that they believe what's in the Bible. So you have to question yourself. If I give you something and I say that this is true, and if you do A, B, C, and D, then this will happen to you. But I don't do A, B, C, and D, and even though what's supposed to happen to me is something favorable, something that I will enjoy, something in this case is everlasting life with this so-called God, but I don't act in that manner. Something is wrong. So you have to question yourself, ask yourself those questions. Um, and then, it's just so we have to be careful because there's a correlation between our actions and how we feel about ourselves, um, and people being able to use that to make us subservient to them or keep us in an inferior position. Um, and again, and I will always say this, the church is largely responsible for that mindset within us, the mindset that tells us that we are less than, that we are born sinners, and that we're only good if Jesus is in our life. And if you notice, I don't know a lot of middle class to upper middle class to rich white people that regurgitate that crap. It's always African Americans and poor whites that regurgitate that stuff, that we're less than, that we're nothing, that we're born sinners, that we're wretched, that kind of stuff. And so again, this channel is about thinking through stuff, thinking through religion, thinking through what we believe, why we believe it, and then understanding that we need to do a better job of researching the information. If you ask a Christian, the typical Black Christian, to explain to you the curse of Ham, I am willing to bet that if you ask 10, 9 of them will get it completely wrong. All they know is what they've been told by a pastor or someone who was told by someone else. All they know is that we're descendants of Ham, and God cursed all of his descendants because he did something wrong. And that's how you live your life based on this crap. And so going back, as I think early on, I mentioned I was having a conversation with this guy who talked about you have no purpose in life if you don't believe in God, right? And I lost my train of thought. I was gonna say a point that I was making uh, with him, and it'll come back to me. I guess I'm getting older, right? But anyway, so that's kind of where we are on that. I wanted to talk about, and we did talk about Christianity, a tool of white supremacy. Those who disagree or have another viewpoint of it, that's fine. Welcome. I would love to hear it. We can discuss it. We can debate it. I'm looking through my notes here, make sure I've covered everything I wanted to cover as well. Um, Let's see. Anything else? Let me look at the comments and see what we have. Any other comments? Tanisha, I said Tanisha. I'm thinking about a friend of mine that's in my Toastmasters group. Uh, but Taisha said that she had the last comment that they bomb Black churches. Let me see, did I miss anybody else? Any other comments? We talked about Exodus, enslaved. Yeah, we talked about enslavement. So to end this, let me make this announcement before I end this, because a lot of you were not on at the very beginning. For those of you, so I will be out. We will be out the next 2 weeks. We'll be back August the 10th. My wife and I are gonna take a vacation. We're going somewhere, and so we'll be out. We'll be back. We'll be back on here on August the 10th, and we'll do August 10th, and I think we'll do August 17th. But then after that, we will probably have to go every other week. I got some other stuff going on that's related to this. It is good things related to this, but it's gonna probably require me to push this to every other week. But that's, we're gonna still do this. The minimum would be every other week. So stay tuned. If you have any ideas or any topics that you want to discuss, please send them to me. I'm still trying to work on getting some people on the show. Someone told me to reach out to, I forgot her name, the African humanist. I reached out to her, but I didn't get anything back from her. Still trying to reach out to Camara. How am I forgetting his first name? I must need some food or something. I'm getting very forgetful. Jeremiah Camara, Taisha. Jeremiah Camara, still reaching out to him. And so Taisha, last comment, she said, one powerful movie is Nate Parker's The Birth of a Nation. Oh man, I know I gotta watch that movie, but I have got to watch that movie. I've been wanting to watch it, but I'm just like, I know he did a great job showing how religion is a tool of white supremacy. Yeah, yeah. So I have got to watch. I haven't seen it, but I've heard a lot about it, and I've been wanting to see it. So I got to do that. Baines Price said, "Thank you. I'm not familiar with Black American Christian thinking, so this was educational. Where are you from, Baines Price?" So the African humanist Esther, I'll mention it to her again. Thank you, Paige. Yeah, I went on one of her lives, and I even told her that someone from this podcast who was on this podcast making comments suggested that I touch bases with her. And I think I mentioned to you before, Paige, that she was actually in the comment section a few weeks ago on one of these podcasts, so that was great. So yeah, if you could mention to her, that'd be great. We'll do something together on that. Bates Price, where are you from? America, because you say you're not familiar with the Black American Christian thinking. Well, great, fantastic. I'm glad we were able to give you some insight. And again, this is not everyone. But this is my experience, and this is, I believe, a large part of our community who still believe in this. And even if they don't outwardly believe, we still operate in this space. We still operate with the notion of the beliefs, even subconsciously, that we're somehow inferior, and that stems from what we're told in the Bible. I don't care if if you haven't been specifically told that you're inferior to white people. You've been told that you are inferior by birth, that you're wretched, that you're sinful, that you're weak, right? And then when you see that everything that's opposite, especially the opposite of it, especially as a child growing up, is white, whether it be the images of God and Jesus, whether it be your first teachers, whether it be the police officers, whatever it is, managers, supervisors, people on television, whatever, uh, that cements that belief that you're inferior. And so we just still have to be careful. I wish that we would just stop teaching our kids that altogether. I wish that we would stop this whole "you were born sinner," all that kind of stuff. It bores me, and I think it sends our kids in the wrong direction at a very, very, very early age. It's also, and I'm not a psychologist or a sociologist, but I also believe that if you watch the way those in our community treat each other, I think part of that mistreatment of each other, why we're so quick to mistreat each other, is born from the fact that we have such low self-esteem about ourselves as individuals, and we can't see someone that looks like us being valuable, being valued, right? So, we hate ourselves collectively, a lot of us do, because we've always been told that we're nothing, that we're worthless, and blah, blah, blah. And so we see someone that looks like us, and we think the same thing about that person. So it makes it easier for us to harm that person because we don't see value in that person, right? And then on the flip side, we see value or we see worth in someone that doesn't look like us. And you can see our actions in relationships. You can see those actions in how we treat other people who don't look like us. You can see that in our restraint that we have when it comes to confronting others who don't look like us, right? And so I think that all of this, the foundation to all of this, is what we learned early on in the church. So yeah, I just wanted to leave that with you. Baines Price, you said originally from England, but been in Canada. Oh, you've been in Canada since 1964. Wow. Where in Canada? I've only been right over. My wife is from Buffalo, so I said that she's from Canada because she's right next door. So we've been right over the border into Canada, Niagara Falls, that part of it. But I want to go to Toronto. There's a couple other places. Vancouver here. Vancouver is nice. Um, I know it's cold during the wintertime, but there's a couple places there that I want to go and visit. But yeah, England. Okay, good deal. Where in England? I know I went to. We spent time in London. I thought London was wonderful. Don't like the rain. I don't like the cold. However, you in London right now is all over the UK. I mean, it's like 100, 105 degrees. I mean, it's just it's crazy the heat that's going on in Europe and parts of the UK right now. So, but thank you all. They're London. Oh, they're Ontario. Okay. All right. Cool. Ontario. Great. Cool. Uh, thank you all. Thank you, Beige Price. Thank you, Taisha. Blessings. You guys, we will all wish for the best for Taisha and her significant other and their child that's coming along. Taisha is awesome. Love her so much. Love her spirit. Love everything about her. Love her energy. And so we just wish the best for her, her significant other, and the baby. We're still waiting for them. I need y'all to put pressure on her. We're still waiting for them to come up to Atlanta so we can do some Ethiopian food. But she still has not done it. Uh, so I'm waiting for her to do that. But thank you all. Let me see who else to say. Thank you, Sharon. Um, Thank you. I can't wait to get back so we can do another one of these. But I'm going to try to enjoy myself for the time that we're out. Bernard X, appreciate you joining. Thank you so much. Let's see who else we got on here. Goddess of Earth Shop, thank you for joining us from Houston. Let's see who else. I like to say thank you to everyone personally. I guess one day I get a large enough group where this is not possible. But until then, I'll do as much as I can. And if Fadi didn't hear anything from you, so I'm not sure if you're still on or what happened. So thank you to all of you who joined, all of you who made the comments, all of you who did make comments and still there, and those of you who will see this later. Please leave me comments because I do get comments all the time after one of these, and I try to respond to everybody. So I definitely appreciate it. Much love to everybody. See you guys in a couple of weeks. Take care. Oh, Sharon, I will tell my wife. I will tell her. I will tell her.